I'm back in Sweden now, and it's been a couple of weeks since I left China. I have been thinking about my time over there, so allow me to share with you the top 9 things I learned. And this is from a man's perspective, since I am a man, and these are also my very subjective thoughts and opinions. And before we start, here are all the lessons. And this is gonna be a pure educational video with PowerPoint slides. Okay, let's go through each one of them. So the first thing I learned and saw was just how much young people, both men and women, seem to struggle in China. By young people, I'm gonna say people under the age of 35, but it's not like people above 35 has it figured out. And I think the main reason for this is because there are no good role models in China. There's no one who can give young people a direction in life and a good mindset and values. Like there is no Chinese version of Tony Robbins, Jordan Peterson or David Goggins. And the reason why I name them is because these are people who has helped me a lot. Most of the role models in China are the celebrities, and their goal is to look as good and as young as possible. A lot of them spend like at least 1 hour per day fixing their hair, putting on makeup and choosing what to wear. And I'm talking about the men here. And the other alternative are professors whose focus is school and has probably never once in their life been to the gym. They still think that school and education are the same, but as a person who went to university and got a master's, in my opinion, they are not the same. And that's why I think a lot of students are quite miserable. So it's not only social science students that are miserable, although I do think that social science students are more miserable. I don't think many people in China has been told that if you're not happy with your life, then you need to change. And that's a lesson from Tony Robbins. If you want things to change, then you need to change. Okay, so here is my quick, undetailed suggestion on how a person can get their life in order. It's not really about taking big risks, but it's about setting one or a couple of goals, then setting up a plan, learn the things needed, and internet is a very good place for learning. Then develop a good mindset and habits. Then focus on doing things which moves you closer towards your goals and stay consistent every day. And then you will feel good in life. And this is another lesson from Tony Robbins, which is progress equals happiness. And this is what I do, and I feel pretty happy most days. Okay, next. A lot of people in China live life on autopilot, and it seems that they don't know how to set good long-term goals. And the reality is that if you don't set your own goals, then one will be set for you by society. And the goal most Chinese people seem to have is to do their regular 9-to-5 job and have fun, or try to have fun whenever they can. And I think that most people are not happy with their regular job. It's a thing in China that you don't talk about work outside of work. And I think most people know what they want, and what we all want are similar things. We want good relationships, be doing financially well, and good health, and a sense of freedom and control of our life. Doing the right thing is important, but I would say that not doing the wrong things are even more important. People seem to just be very stuck in the comfort zone and are very good at coming up with excuses. From what I have observed, a lot of Chinese people, they are in this very low energy, sad and tired state. And I think it has a lot to do with mental health. So our mental health is directly linked to how well we treat our diet, exercise and sleep. There are so few Chinese guys who go to the gym in China. I'm being generous when I say that 95% of guys don't go to the gym. And if you go to a smaller town, you can barely even find a gym. I would say that the average woman is in better shape than the average man. It seems that a lot of women seem to be doing some kind of exercise like yoga or Pilates, but most Chinese men are just not in a desirable physical shape. My personal experience is that if you don't have good physical health, you are just gonna feel worse in general. Life just looks a little bit more sad and dark when your physical health is not good. And I understand a little bit more now why it's common for Asian women to go for non-Asian guys. When it comes to diet, it's very common to eat out and order takeaway. And here, flavor is the priority, and a lot of people judge food by its taste. Because of this, a lot of unhealthy things are put in the food to make it taste good, like oil and seasonings. And most of the time when it comes to food, there seems to be a trade-off between flavor and health. So I want to share the reason why I avoid warm food takeout here in China. It makes sense to me that sizzling hot or boiling hot food straight down into a cheap plastic container can't be good for one's health. I have listened to podcasts and they say that plastic with hot food is not a good combination. Because of this, I didn't order hot food delivery a single time. That thing scares me and it makes me nervous. So I'm talking a lot here and by no means do I have everything figured out. But when it comes to mental health and mindset, I do believe I'm quite stable. I do believe that most Chinese people are good people. It's just their values and mindset are kind of messed up. Also, I've yet heard it from a woman who says there are a lot of high quality guys in China or the other way around. I'm gonna wrap up this first point now. I think one of the reasons why there are no good role models is because you can't say whatever you want in China. For example, I don't think it's allowed to talk bad or disagree with politics. In terms of mindset and personality, I think Japanese, Korean and Chinese people are very similar. After seeing men and women here in China, it's very understandable to me why the birth rate is so low in these East Asian countries. The next lesson is that I'm grateful for being Chinese. By no means have I ever been sad about being Chinese, but it's always felt neutral and wasn't something I was thinking about. However, after this recent trip, I'm now very grateful for being Chinese because I don't think it would have been possible to have this experience otherwise. I think this trip just went so well. I got to see and experience a lot, and my rating of it would be a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, even though there are so many smokers in China. I now know that being Chinese, if used correctly, actually opens up a lot of opportunities and potential experiences in the future. Chinese people in China also treat foreigners a little bit differently. And since I look Chinese, I get treated normally. I do really like China as a country and want to spend more time there in the future. And being Chinese and having family over there also makes it a lot easier to get a visa. And the last reason why I started to be grateful for being Chinese is that it's something I'm never gonna be able to change. So I might as well just be grateful for it. In summary, turn disadvantages into advantages and be grateful for what you have now. The third lesson is how cheap it is to live in China, especially the basic needs such as food and transportation. Rent is okay. It cost me around $800 per month for a one-bedroom apartment located very central in Shanghai. And here are some of the things I buy the most. Chicken breast is 20 yuan per kilo. Most fruits and vegetables are under 20 yuan per kilo, and metro is around 4 yuan for a single ride. And this further proved to me that very little is needed to be happy. At least for me right now, as a man, all I need is a goal to work on, a couple of good relationships and good health, and I will be happy. So I think a valid plan really is to just set a goal and then move to a country, for example China, and then just work and make progress on the goal. And then not spend money on unnecessary things. You get to switch your living environment a little bit, and afterwards you will hopefully be left with some good memories. The fourth lesson is how overrated expensive and tasty food is. So during this time, I tried a lot of expensive and fancy food like king crab, wagyu beef and omakase, and I've decided that at this time in my life, it's just not for me. It's not worth it because I'm not getting much out of it. So wanting to eat expensive and tasty food is just not a desire I have. In my experience, if you're hungry, then almost all food will taste good. Right now, I see food mostly as fuel, and of course, I will still eat tasty food every now and then, but it's just not a priority. I've had enough food in my life that I'm able to more or less predict the flavor of any food just by looking at it. So food for me is not that exciting. Many people want freedom today. You could say that I've now obtained the freedom from wanting to eat expensive and tasty food. I think getting rid of desire is a good way towards more freedom. Lesson 5 is gonna be the importance of male friends. I think as a man, you need to have male friends. Otherwise, you talk too much about your feelings. So next time I come to China, I'm gonna try to find some like-minded male friends. During my time in China, the person I talked with the most, by far, was my girlfriend. And by no means was it bad. We get along very well. Just saying that being able to talk to a man every now and then and share some thoughts would have been something positive and was something I missed. In my experience, men and women are different. We think and talk differently, and different things are not equally important to us. Lesson number 6 is gonna be how much Chinese people use their phone. For the first time in my life, I saw a person with over 10 hours of phone time in one day. And it was heartbreaking, really. I don't understand how a person can spend so much of their time and attention on their phone. It's quite awful, like people are just glued to their phone. And the reflex to just pull up the phone is so strong. People are just normally walking and then they suddenly pull it up and I look over and then they're scrolling social media. As a person who is in my 20s, I think your 20s should be used to take risk and develop yourself and live life, and not scroll social media and accumulate materialistic things. Clearly, most Chinese people do not agree with me and they choose the latter. Based on what I've seen, it's just so much focus on short-term pleasure in China. A person who lacks purpose will distract themselves with short-term pleasure. I think this is a good way to explain why Chinese people use their phone so much. My screen time in Sweden is around 15 to 30 minutes per day. In China, it was 1 to 1.5 hours per day, and I felt the negative effects for sure. And I'm talking about reduced energy and just more tired, and you could say that I felt a little bit mentally disabled. With that said, the average phone time in China is 5 hours per day. And I know that if I consume 10 minutes of social media, then my mind does not feel clear afterwards. A lot of Chinese people say they want freedom. I think a good place to start is freedom from your phone. In general, I think it's difficult to get more freedom without changing one's mindset. One big reason why a person doesn't feel free is because of their mindset. My definition of mindset is the meaning we apply to things and situations. And as a result, our mindset also determines how we respond to things and situations. The next lesson is the importance of language. It should be pretty obvious what I mean here. So a lot of Chinese people can't speak English, so being able to speak Chinese will make life a lot easier. I also value Chinese, and if I don't improve it right now, I know I'm gonna regret it in the future. And it's also for my own self-respect. So if you want to live well in China, then just speaking is not enough. You also need to be able to read. You can of course survive well without knowing Chinese. A lot of people do that. What I mean is that life will be better if you can read things and communicate with people. Lesson number 8 is gonna be that not all Chinese women are wifey material. I really thought that most Chinese women were these warm, kind and caring people. But that is just not the case. There are some wild and ferocious animals out there. To demonstrate my point, I got a picture of a hyena here. I don't have any specific examples of what it is, but it just feels like a lot of these women's mental health is very unstable and they put so much focus on external things. I guess that's what happens when phone and social media becomes such a big part of one's life. And the problem is definitely not their looks. There's a lot of good-looking women in China. The main problem is that they lack self-awareness and the ability to identify bad behavior. And actually, I think this applies to both men and women. Many girls in China really believe they don't have any problems, because when they talk with their female friends, they never call each other out on bad behavior, because to them that means being a bad friend. They tell each other what they want to hear just to make each other feel better. I'll give you my grandma's definition of most young girls in China. And she's not the most humble person. Let's call her an offensive comedian. Most young women are useless these days. They can't cook food, clean the house, or take care of themselves. They want to dress pretty, eat tasty, and buy expensive things. No wonder they are so miserable. Is this true? I think that there is some truth to it. Lesson 9 and the last lesson is that unpaid vacation is underrated. So I have been working for 3.5 years as a software developer, and this was the first time I took unpaid vacation. I took 4 weeks. And I have to say, I think it's something that is very underrated. If you want at some point to leave the 9-to-5 job and develop a side income, then I think unpaid vacation should be used more. For example, I get 30 days of paid vacation every year working in Sweden, which I know is a lot compared to other countries. But if I take another 30 days, then I reduce my yearly income by like 10%, but I get a 100% increase in vacation. So I think it's a good deal. And then I can spend this time to focus on my own things. And I know that I'm not gonna make any good money from a standard job. Like now I save around $1,000 every month most of the time. And a 9-to-5 job is basically trading time for security. And I definitely feel very secure and comfortable. But here is how it really feels for me. I'm working and I'm living a very frugal and minimalistic life, but I'm more or less still living paycheck to paycheck. And I really don't want to be at the mercy of a paycheck for the rest of my life. Okay, that's the video. Once again, just reporting what I saw in China. Hope you learned something and thank you so much for watching.